Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Jimena Guzman. I am a BTM student currently coursing my term 3, and today I'm delighted to introduce Nadia Gill, who has over 20 years of experience in strategic transformation and operations with a specialty in strategic planning, mergers and acquisitions, and integrations. She has worked on over 200 transactions with a total close value of approximately 35 billion. She has cross-functional leadership experience managing large teams located all over the world, and also has P&L management and senior leadership experience. Nadia is currently the head of business strategy at Google Cloud, where she is responsible for developing international strategic planning and transforming the operations for Google Cloud cybersecurity products. So she is also an angel investor since 2010, having invested in innovative startups in several industries such as media, financial services, water, and robotics. Earlier in her career, she worked at Deloitte Consulting, PwC, Cognizant, at Siemens in similar senior roles in transformation, finance, strategy, and operations. Nadia received an MBA from the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, and is also a licensed certified fraud examiner. So I encourage you to ask questions in the chat. I'm going to share your presentation. Just give a second, please.
Okay. Gracias, Jimena. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. I will switch to English, but I would love to hear who of you guys are Latinos, fellow Latinos here. So this is a quick snapshot of my career as Jose Manuel requested. So I'm originally Mexican and studied my undergrad in the National Autonomous University of Mexico. If there is another Pumita in the audience, please raise your hand. So I did a bachelor in accounting, and after that, I worked for a number of years in Mexico, first at a boutique in a consulting firm, and then I went to PwC. Along the same years, I also did my certified fraud examiner license. And after that, I came to the US to study my MBA at Wharton. After the MBA, I stayed in the US working at Siemens for a few years. They had back then a rotational program aiming to create the next leaders at Siemens. So I was very lucky to be there because they rotated me across a number of industries. I made director there. Then I switched to Cognizant Technology Solutions, doing pretty much the same job, but at a larger scale. Along those years, I started doing angel investing, first with 37 Angels, and then with other organizations. Then that was on the side. Then I went to Deloitte as a consultant to do management consulting in strategy, mergers and acquisitions, transformations. And then I came to Google, where I have been since 2018. And I moved to California. I was in New York for 10 years. I miss New York so much. And so that's the summary. On the left side, some pictures of some fun pictures. You know, I have 2 kids, and most importantly, a 16-year-old cat, very big, as you can see it. And I like golfing. I used to dance ballet, and being in New York was so much fun. And and my husband is fantastic. So that's the first and most important thing I want you guys, if when you're a student, you don't think about these things. I didn't, for sure, but choose someone to marry who will be supportive of your dreams and career aspirations, because that you don't think it is important back then, but then that later in the road it becomes really important to have someone who is your champion and who accepts you, just the way you are. So okay, so next one. So I, when talking to the fabulous conference organizers like Jimena and Manuel, they were telling me, I was telling them like what kind of topics you would be interested in listening to. And they told me, we have a number of entrepreneurs in the audience. So how to get funded was top of mind. So I will spend the next 20 minutes or so talking about the funding, how to get funded. So hopefully this is interesting for you. And if not, hang out. And at the end, we will have plenty of time for questions. So let's talk about these ones. Let's start on the left. I will not read the slide, but in general, for any career, but particularly as an entrepreneur, you have to choose your passion for the startup you're going to do. And here is why. Because when you are doing your own startup, you are going to be doing this for at least 5 years, the same startup. Realistically speaking, it's more like 7 to 10, maybe more, depending if you sell it or go public. It might be longer, but realistically, you are committing to at least 5 years of your life. So if you are working on your passion, it will not feel like work. Now, if you don't know what your passion is, there are tools on the internet to find out. So, and I highly recommend you to take them. So there is one, my favorite is by the University of Pennsylvania, where Wharton is, that is called Authentic Happiness. And it has so if you Google UPenn Authentic Happiness, it will give you a link, and then you go there, and there are a series of free questionnaires that you can take. My favorite one is the Signature Strengths, the VIA Signature Strengths. And that one, you take it, it's an hour. And it gives you the results of your strengths listed by the top. And it is eye-opening because when I took it when I was a student, and I took it last year, and it has changed, which makes sense because as you grow up and mature in your career, your strengths change. But when I took it as a student, it gave me like my top 2 was leadership and love for learning. So I decided to take a job where I could be a leader, where I could exert leadership, and where I could be learning. And I have to say that the jobs where those 2 things are present are the jobs where I have had so much fun that it doesn't feel like work, So again, heading back to number 1, choose your passion. So again, I really encourage you to take it regardless of where you are in your life, because again, apply that to your job or your startup, and you will be happier doing that work. So the second one, very related to the first one, choose something in and out. So if your passion are video games and you know so much about video games, do a startup about a video game. So there was this woman that I met when I was starting as an investor, and her son had allergies, several of those, and so nobody knew about the allergies as much as she did because of her son. So she realized that in the market there were all these bracelets, that have the allergies listed, but they were, mostly metal and kind of not ugly, but kind of very serious and nothing related to like kids. So she created these bracelets that were different colors. And then, she created like, her son was allergic to milk and peanuts. So she created like a milk that was kind of cute with, eyes and a face and a smiley face. And I don't remember, she called Mr. Milky, or something. And a peanut, so she draw a peanut and then, they put them in plastic and, the bracelet, you could buy the bracelets and then put the different allergies and paste them in the bracelet so that when your kid is at the school, they were not embarrassed of wearing the bracelet because it looks so cute. And also they would remember what they are allergic to because it was very visual. So it became such a big startup. I mean, the bracelets started to be sold in Walgreens and CVS, and then Nickelodeon picked up because they love the characters, and then she was selling. So the point is, it started because of her passion. Getting her son to be safe, and something she knew in and out. Nobody knew better about the allergy thing but her. So again, choose your passion, choose something you know very well. And so next one is something scalable. And bear in mind, this whole slide is about how the investors think. So we investors like the easy things. So we like something that doesn't require a lot of humans, So obviously, if you're building something that can be replicated easily, that you can use artificial intelligence to build it and grow it fast, and if it's social media, whether it can become viral very quickly, very easily, you're going to get funded faster. With that said, that's not a prerequisite. If you are building something that requires manufacturing or shipping, you can still get funded. Just be aware that your funding cycle will be a little bit longer than if you were building just a program or an app. And also bear in mind, it has to be innovative. So one of my investments is in water, because I'm aware that, with global warming and the way we are treating the planet and living in California, the drought is, I guess I got disconnected. Let me check.
Very good. I think Nadia got disconnected, so we are gonna wait until she can come back. In the meantime, you can type some questions in the chat. I can see one here. So she's back. Please, Nadia, raise your hand so I can give you access. Can you refresh your window? So let me see. Okay, I have your hand raised here. Technology, yeah. Yeah, thank you for your patience.
Sorry, guys. I was
She's back.
old back then. I was like, I even lost my train of thought. So let me tell you guys, we will probably get disconnected again. I don't know why my computer is rejecting this system. So if we get disconnected, I'll probably log in from my phone. And hopefully that's going to, well, okay, let me rephrase. Hopefully my phone can support this. Okay. Right. So here we are. Where was I? So anyone can remind me where was I? The scalability. Yes, water. So yes. So the startup where I invested is called The Grail, and what they produce cups for water. But if you think about the other uh, jars that you buy on, at Costco, they filter the water. This one disinfects water. So they patented this technology, this filter that can filter viruses. And they were so even if it's again a manufacturing startup, because you have to create the cup, and it is not a cheap jar, it's about $60, $70, $80. It's worth it because I use it like every time I travel. I used to travel a lot as a consultant, and it's a pain to be always depending on water bottles. So you just get water from the tap and use the filter, and I know I'm drinking clean water. And they were also sending it to the military in Iraq. They got some contracts, and I think they are the future. I mean, they are doing so well. And they had a hard time in the beginning getting funded because, again, investors were like, well, you have to think about the shipping and the manufacturing. But think about that. So this takes me to my next topic, which is, do a startup that is about the future. And if you think about the future, what is it? And Mike, who is in the audience, cloud is the future. There is nothing on-prem, or what is on-prem is kind of becoming obsolete. So cloud, crypto, metaverse, robotics, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, where I work, water, garbage, food, health. Those are the future. This is if you're aiming to create a unicorn. But if that's not your passion, then go back to rule number one. Again, if your passion is video games, hey, I didn't list it in there, but maybe I'm not a video game person. So if you are into video games, you know your industry better than I do. But rule number one is, trumps everything. Moving to number 5, demonstrate that you will not give up when it gets tough. And it will get tough. It will get tough. Either we will be hit by another recession. For the ones who survive, the startups that survive COVID, so it will get tough. But think as an investor. Myself as an investor, my biggest fear is that I'm going to write a check to a startup And that person is going to use that check to go on a vacation to Hawaii. You know what I mean? And yes, we have legal documentation, we sign a bunch of paperwork. But, getting into, suing the person because they didn't do what they supposed to be doing as a startup, who has that kind of time? You know what I mean? And also, let me tell you, as an investor, I have had a few exits. And I have seen both ends of the spectrum. I have had one person who actually just gave up on the startup, literally just gave up after a few years. Like, it was too tough because they changed the regulations. And the guy was like, I'm dissolving this. So yes, I lost my money on that one. And I have another one that, my exit was flat. It was not a loss, not a win. But that guy stayed there for 11 years of his life. And he tried everything. And again, a lot of this being in a startup is a lot of luck. You know what I mean? An equivalent startup got $1 billion exit. He didn't get $1 billion exit, but it was not bad either. And again, I didn't double my money as an investor, but I didn't lose either. So it was kind of nice. But he was like, I was talking to him like, what are you going to be doing? What are you up to these days? And he's like, well, I kind of want to start another startup because, again, once an entrepreneur, always an. I got connected again. Can you guys hear me? Yes, no?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, she's gone. Sorry about that. Nadia is here back. She's trying to get in the room. For somehow it's not working. She's raising the hand again. Let's see.
Okay, am I back? Yes. Okay.
Sure.
Well, organ rejection that my laptop is having with this. I'm sorry, guys. This is my laptop. Okay. So where was I? I'm telling you. Okay. Oh, yes. So I getting while Jimena loads this slide. So I was talking to this guy, and he was like, "Well, I want to do a new startup," and I said, "Well, yeah, do it." And he's like, "Well, I'm embarrassed of asking for money again because my investors didn't do like a slam dunk, thank you, Brad. And I told him, look, I mean, I saw you for 11 years. I saw you. I would be glad and honored to write you another check because I know you're not going to pack up your bags and go on a vacation to Hawaii. You're going to try to make this startup work. So again, investors are investing in you. We are investing, and if you put, at least for me, and remember, I'm one kind of investor. So there are other investors who are on the opposite, on the opposite side. But if you put in front of me someone who I know it's not going to give up and is going to find ways of making it work and try totally be relentless, it's for me, I will be glad to write a check. You know what I mean? Because I know they are going to try to make it work. So that takes me to number 6. Be a harmonious mix of stubbornness and malleability. So this is a thing. we as investors, we want you to be stubborn, to try hard and to not give up, and to know your in industry in and out. At the same time, we kind of want you to be a little bit malleable, because as a startup, you will have to do a lot of pivots. You will have to change directions a lot of the time. So if this is not working, try this other thing, and this, you know what I mean. So and it is a very difficult combination. But here is a hint. If an investor tells you, have you looked into this, or have you thought about this? Bear in mind that we do have your best interest in mind, because your success is my success. So just keep a little bit of ears open, because I have seen startup founders who are on the corner of stubbornness, and they are not malleable, and that's great up to a certain point. When there is, again, there will be a change of regulations, there might be another recession, you might get a competitor who is hungrier than you and ruthless. So you need to be a little bit malleable to not have this funnel vision, and be able to recognize the signs and do a pivot, change the direction of your startup, and at the same time, still be stubborn to keep it going. It's a very difficult combination, I have to say. Even myself in my career, I have found it hard to decide, time to let it go, time to move on, versus I can still make this work. Okay, so do your homework. Okay, so this drives me nuts. If you're presenting to an investor, you gotta know your market, you gotta know your competitors. What makes you different from the competitors? Nothing more frustrating for me as an investor than to ask, someone is doing a pitch, and I said, okay, well, have you thought of this competitor? And not to know this competitor, because I consider myself a generalist. I'm not an industry expert in that startup most of the time. You know what I mean? I know about water, for example, and if they don't know the basic competitors, I'm not talking about the obscure competitors, I'm talking about the basic competitors. That's an automatic rejection for investors. The other one is talking about rejection. Number 8, be prepared for rejections and be relentless. So you will get rejected 100 times, 200 times. So related to number 5, build your support network who will be championing you and will hold you accountable, because you will be rejected a lot of times. This is a lot of like the salespeople, and Mike can give us a lot of information there. You know what I mean? When you are selling and you are getting rejected over and over and over, how do you protect your confidence? So I have a funny story about this one. I once listened to this speech to this entrepreneur. So she started a very different startup, which was renting herself to be your bridesmaid in the wedding. And basically, sometimes when you are getting married, you get your bridesmaids, and you have a fight with them, and then you don't have someone to be your bridesmaid. So she rents herself. So obviously, who's going to invest in that? You know what I mean? Like back then, So she became actually became very successful. But she was telling her story that, she's from New York, and in the New York Public Library, right? Yes, bridesmaid as a service. So in the New York Public Library, they were matching mentors with entrepreneurs for free. And, when you're an entrepreneur, you're poor. So, you got to do as many things for free. So she said she got paired with, I don't remember the name, John, let's call him. So with John. And John was a retired executive who was doing this for fun. So she said that she went and met with John and started telling him about his successes. And John was like, not interested to hear about this. I want to hear about your failures. And she was like, dude, I'm a millennial. Like, we carefully, choreographically put our lives on Instagram to make them look beautiful. We don't talk about our failures. You know, we airbrush our pictures to make us look beautiful and younger and successful. So no, I don't talk about my failures. And John was like, well, don't talk to me. Don't schedule anything with me until you come and tell me, you know, what have you failed? What have you tried and failed at? And she, because she wanted to meet John again, she started, you know, she thought like, well, I want to go on Oprah, you know, so she pitched to Oprah, she failed. So she got a new meeting with John to tell him, John, I failed with Oprah. But because she was aiming for the stars, she got featured, you know, in Good Morning America, and, you know, like she failed with Oprah, but got a lot of other coverage. Yeah. And she said, you know, I was doing like crazy things to fail because I wanted to meet with John again. So again, she was, but in her case, she made it a little bit of a game. And she, again, now she has a book, and, you know, she's doing very well. She has a business, you know, other women who become bridesmaids. So again, be prepared for rejections, but you have to be relentless. Now, number 9, warm intros to investors are always better than cold intros, but still do cold intros. You know, but still do your homework about the investor you are cold calling, because, you know, do your homework. You know, if you are in a video game industry and the investor you're pitching is only on biotech, you know, why are you bothering? You know what I mean? Bothering yourself, you're wasting your time. Number 10. Important. Don't worry about someone stealing your idea. Whenever an entrepreneur asks me to sign an NDA, I really roll my eyes. And I can tell you a lot of fellow investors do. NDAs irritate us because, you know what? There are so many competitors for you anyway. You know, your idea might be very innovative, but it's not unique. So also we are investing in you. Number 5, we are investing in you, how you are going to execute this idea, how you are not going to give up, how you are going to, you know, move and try to fail. You know, I am too busy to replicate your idea and do a startup doing exactly the same that you are doing. I don't have that kind of time. So please don't make me sign an NDA. I'm not going to steal your idea. And I can tell you, most investors will not. Number 11, don't lie. So this is important. And it sounds kind of basic, but oh my God. So there was this startup who had this amazing idea, innovative, and I will not mention because, you know, then you will find who it was. And it was just gathering a lot of interest, and just, you know, I thought they are going to make it. They are going to get funded. They are going to get $1 million funding, at least for seed, which is usually high for a seed investment. And they lied, something so simple. They lied on the undergraduate experience of one of the founders. And during the due diligence, it came out. That was it. The end of the road for them. They didn't get funded. And even I found out about it. So your reputation spreads very quickly. So if you didn't have an undergrad degree, don't lie, you know. And last one, don't worry about your age, because you know, I've met a lot of people who want to do their own startups, and they are like, well, you know, I'm kind of older, because you think of a startup or an entrepreneur, someone who is in their 20s. And in reality, there is no age anymore to start your own startup, because number 1, our lives are becoming longer. You know, the human lifespan has gone from the average of 70 to average of 80. You know, with these new healthcare discoveries, like people live longer lives healthy. So now there is the time where, even 10 years ago, people used to retire at about 50 something, 60. Now I see people retiring or never retiring. I mean, look at Warren Buffett, you know what I mean? So don't worry about your age. So that's it. Now, questions, comments?
Let me see the chat. I
No
think
question.
there was a question here. So, what were some of the differences you noticed in the work living culture across different places you traveled to?
Oh God. There are like significant differences. And you would think they are big in your face, but they are actually very subtle. So for example, I'm Latina, so we Latinos, and I fulfill every idea that you have of a Latino. I speak with my hands. I get passionate about things, and I found in the beginning of my career that because it was not as accepted, that kind of scared people out. Now either my teams are used to that, or they don't tell me. But I found, yeah, I have found a lot of big differences, I have to say, and now with globalization and social media, things have evened out. I have seen the last 5 years that things have continued kind of to be less different, at least on the surface. I suspect being a layer beneath, things are continue to be the same. And this is just a very quick example. In when I used to work in Latin America, it was very common to say to your face, oh, this is wrong, and why is this wrong? You know what I mean? Working here, tone it down a little bit more. You know what I mean? And also step back and try to find out the reasons. So again, things, it depends on the culture for sure. Yeah, I have found that.
Okay, and we have one more question here. Are you seeing more women entrepreneurs? Or in general in IT, I think it's more rule for males than for women. What are your thoughts?
I would say sadly, I see about the same number of women entrepreneurs. I'm hoping to see a larger number in the next few years, because there is a reason for that, and it has to be related to two things. Number one, the economic cycle, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And number two, also the cultural cycle, in the sense that when the economy is doing well, you see a lot of startups popping up. And when the economy is not doing so well, I saw a lot of people sticking out to their jobs for their life, to their paid corporate jobs. With that said, back in 2010, I attended a conference with the amazing Janet Hanson, and she said 2020 is the decade of 2020 is going to be all about entrepreneurship, and I see it more and more. She was right; she called it. So I don't know what the decade of the 2030s is going to be. I suspect it's going to be more and more about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's great. More women in the industry and as an entrepreneurs. So we have another question from Navpreet Kaur. What is difficult or easy to adapt to these cultures?
More than difficult or easy, it was more about learning about it, and because particularly when you are working or leading a team, a lot of people don't tell you what you are doing wrong. You know what I mean? Until someone has the good heart of pulling you out and say like, you shouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? But nobody tells you. And so getting a mentor who will tell you the truth is so important. And I will give you an example. This is so from one of my friends who was working at this very important management consulting firm. Think of the top. And when you are interviewing for management consulting, you have to solve a case. And also because they are hiring you to work with clients, they want to see you how would you act with clients? So I was talking to one of my colleagues and peers, and I was like, yeah, how was your recruiting day? Because they would go to certain colleges and to recruit. And he said, oh my God, so we saw this, we had this guy and everybody loved him because he solved the case. Amazing, amazing case. Flawless, charming, funny. And I was like, oh, so are you giving them an offer? And he was like, no. And I was like, why? He said, because he didn't use deodorant and we were having the case interview in a little room and it smelled so awful. And we cannot give an offer to someone who doesn't wear deodorant. Like, it's going to smell with our clients. And I said, well, are you going to tell him? No, we can't. It's illegal. So nobody told the guy. And he's like, and I said, well, I was really tempted to write an anonymous letter to the guy, like, well, you're amazing. Your brain works amazingly. You're solving all these cases. If you want to get a job, you wear deodorant. Nobody will tell you what you are doing wrong. So I bear that guy when he didn't get the offer after cracking the case and being perfect in the interviews. He was like, what's wrong? Like, what did I do wrong? And he was probably thinking it was something about this. So yes, getting mentors who will tell you what you're doing wrong and it's not even about cultural, international differences. It's about the company, because even when I moved to California, the feedback I got too late, of course, is that you are too New York. So, even in the US, the cultural differences from one coast to the other coast, and nobody tells you this, or when they do, it's usually at the performance review when it's too late and you cannot do anything about it. So asking for feedback or getting mentors early on, it's very important.
Okay, so we have also another question. What has been your favorite part about working at Google in the field of technology?
Oh, wow. A lot of things. I love Google. Free food is really top. They have different restaurants in around the campus. So if you don't, one day you can go for Japanese, another day you can go for Italian. So yes, the gain weight that I got when I started at Google. Let me put it this way: I lost weight during COVID. Like a lot of people gain weight during COVID. I lost it because I was just not eating. So yes, so free food is amazing, but on the job side, I found it fascinating because at Google, and I think this is across the Bay Area, across Apple and Facebook, I don't but I suspect is that because it is not a hierarchical company, even the people at the lowest level in the organization are encouraged to question why we are doing this. So in other companies, when I was a consultant and I had some clients, in financial services and healthcare, I would go and I would tell them like, oh, we are doing this because, the senior vice president decided we should do this. And they would be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's get it done. I would go here And, we got the direction from the vice president, we are doing this project. And I need you to give me this information. I would sit, with entry-level person at Google, and they would be like, I don't think so. I don't think we should be doing this. Why are we doing this? I explain to me, and then I would give them the explanation, and they would be like, no, but you know what? Here is where you are not thinking about this. So I found in the beginning when I started Google that getting the traction to get my projects done was hard, because I had to not convince, but kind of sell that the idea made sense. But the benefit of that is, by the time I got the project done, my project was rock solid, because I have gotten feedback from everyone, and I have gotten every possible objection. So that's why Google produces such amazing products. And I can guarantee you that's how Gmail was created. That's how Maps was created, because everyone has to give an opinion on and you're encouraged to do that, to provide an opinion. And one of the principles that we have at Google is assume good intent. Meaning, if I have someone across the room telling me, well, it's not going to work because we are not thinking about this, my assumption is that this person has the best interest in mind for my project, meaning they are rejecting this, or they are criticizing or providing feedback with good intent. They mean well. And that has been the biggest lesson, that they are not opposing or trying to make this slow. They have good intent. So that's something that such a big lesson at Google that I love, that, by the time you do your project or create your product, it's rock solid. I mean, you got feedback from everyone. You anticipated every issue, and you keep getting feedback over and over. Me as a manager, I get feedback from my direct reports. They, and the person, and they have a lot of power. I have seen people at Google managing people who have to leave because they got a very low score from their direct reports. So bad managers at Google don't last a long time because they get a low rating. You got to be a good manager, a good leader of people.
That's nice. So what are some requirements to work at Google, Nadia?
Well, this year, as far as I recall, is one of our biggest years in hiring. So we are hiring a lot of people. So you get graded when if you're coming from outside, you get we have the 5 pillars of Google. I call it the 5 pillars. It's not, but the most important one is the cultural fit. Are you someone who not only are smart, but are open to feedback? Do you get excited about solving problems? Are you fun to work with? I would say those are the important ones. Like if you fail, if you are, I don't know, if you are interviewing for an accounting position and you didn't get it because, we get a lot of applicants, but, you kind of scored well on the Googliness side, you will be able to interview again. Because we hire for fit. There is a lot of internal mobility across Google. I already moved, and we hire for fit for sure. You have to prove that you're a good fit. If you don't pass the fit, it's harder to get in.
Okay, and there is another question from Rodrigo. Did you notice more entrepreneurs after the pandemic?
Yes. Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, just the volume that I receive, yeah, it's high. Yeah.
Okay, and so there is another one. I'm sorry to say, but currently Mexico is not providing enough opportunities for graduates. What would you recommend to students in this regard?
Ricardo, I mean, it was the same when I graduated. It's a tough one, because and it's not only Mexico, by the way. It's in general in other countries where the economy is not strong. That It's tough because there is this. I saw it when I was, when I graduated, and I graduated in the middle of a recession uh, from the UNAM. The top thing that I would recommend is to help each other as students. So, for example, just this is a prime example. I got the invitation to talk today because of Pedro, who we went together to Wharton. So he thought about me. And in general, if something that I have observed here in the US is that if you graduate from certain colleges, you help each other as a fellow graduate. And I can tell you, for example, from Wharton, if someone reaches out to me and they put in the subject line, fellow Wharton graduate, I always, always, always answer that email and try to help. And I know it happens to me whenever I'm trying to find another job or an opportunity somewhere. And if I put cold email to that person and said, fellow Wharton graduate, I know I will get an answer. And that doesn't happen in Latin America. I haven't seen it happening. Maybe now it is, but I didn't see it back then.
Yeah, so networking is very important. We have one from Gustavo. What is the most interesting trend for you in 2022?
Oh, God, metaverse. I find that fascinating. That's, it's just so fascinating to watch from the sidelines, for sure. Oh, Dan Walters, I did sales calls in California, got laughed when I shop in the soup. Yes, I have, I used to work in New York in Wall Street, so I have like a closet full of black and teal and blue and gray suits, and I haven't taken them out. I just took this one out this morning. Yes. I have to say, the whole wearing a hoodie and a t-shirt just feels so weird for me after a decade on Wall Street.
And let's see. Nafpreet is asking, what major projects are you currently working on?
Oh, personal or work? I probably cannot talk about the ones at work, but you guys saw the latest acquisition of Google cybersecurity. It's a very exciting time being cyber. Yes, so that's that. On the personal side, as an investor, definitely always looking for great investments. And of course, as a mom, ensuring that I'm not doing such a bad job raising the kids.
So is it hard to balance your personal life with professional life?
Oh, totally. There is no balance. There is no.
That doesn't exist.
And that's another thing. That's why I keep saying, choose your passion. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you cannot tune it out. You're going to be thinking about your startup and about your product Saturdays, Sundays, Christmas. You it's always in your head. Is the rat the rat wheel in your head? So yes, it's tough to it's always kind of a balancing act to take care of yourself, take care of your health, ensuring that you're taking care of your husband, being nice to your husband at least once a day, ensuring that your kids get water to go to school in their backpacks, that at least was washed the previous night. You know what I mean? Like they're not repeating the la amphora. It's tough. I mean, it's tough. I was talking to this woman who has a $1 billion business, and she was saying I can be the best wife, the best mother, the best businesswoman, but not at the same time. So one week I will be a brilliant businesswoman, and another week I will be a great wife. And if you interview I was talking to one senior partner at Deloitte, when my previous job, and she would tell me the same. Like, she would say, like, I sold a project worth, millions of dollars, but my husband is like, hi, hello, so yeah, it's tough. Have fun. No, seriously.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes left.
Yes.
Maybe we can answer the last question in the chat. So it is, how Google turned an innovative idea to a business strategy in your experiences.
So that's in all of this is well documented on the internet about Google, but we have what we call the 20%. And that's how our major products became billion-dollar businesses. Google Gmail is a prime example of that. Basically, we have the freedom at Google to dedicate 20% of our time to something else, to either, and that's one day of the week. That's huge, to either create a new project, a new product. So that's how, and bear in mind, there are a lot of failures. There are a lot of ideas that don't get out of the ground. For every major amazing product, there were 100 that didn't work out. But it is, that's how the company is also trying to keep the innovation going. You know what I mean? They are trying to, because, for example, if you think of Google as a business, we are a combination of several products. Ads is our most mature product. You know what I mean? So there needs to be an investment in other new technologies. And Google does a good job at that. I saw a comment that I wanted from Michael Arnold that says, that's a high level of trust, having the confidence that everyone has your back. And that's another thing, Michael. And if you guys forget about everything in this session, I want you to remember this one, which is, you have to live your life thinking that everything that's happening to you happens for you, not to you, meaning, like, everything is good. If you missed the train this morning, it's happening for you, not to you. Like, trust that life has your back. That's what you have to, always, every day. And it's hard to think that way. It's hard to switch.
Yeah, I think we need to trust the process. And well, thank you very much, Nadia. You have a lot of nice comments in the chat. They all say that your positivity, energy, it's amazing. And thank you also in the audience for chatting with us in the chat box. Please feel free to, I think Nadia shared her email in the chat. So please feel free to reach out to her. And also in LinkedIn, she's very active in LinkedIn and in her email. So if there is an entrepreneur there, please contact her. I think she's an amazing mentor. So thank you very much, Nadia.
Thank you, guys. It was so much fun.
We can say muchas gracias.
Gracias, Jimena.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you. So let me stop recording.